standing next to each other like that. Oh, they are so cute. Can you get them, Bill?
Really?
What a picture. Have you got on your telephoto lens?
What?
Look how furry they are. We're going to have one of these that got curls. Hey, I hope we don't have her in the truck. I can't believe this. You're going to have to hold stiller in case you don't put that on that. Look at her drinking. Look at that mouthful of stuff she's got, Jason. Look at her when she picks up her feet, all the green stuff comes up. Look at her blow water on her nose. This food is big.
Okay, I think.
Look at you. Those little ones are cute things. Now you talk about clothing. Is she
You done,
gonna go-
Jace?
Well, not everybody's dying like you are.
I'd say their guardrail here is in trouble, wouldn't you, Jace?
That's the Grand Canyon of the Yellowstone. That's Hayden Valley.
You know how to spot any sheep yet?
That's one of the biggest
Yes,
mountains.
the sheep are on top.
You got a ways to go then, huh?
Yep, about halfway.
That's Canyon.
Yep. That's the Yellowstone Canyon. That is not Canyon Village.
Tell him to pan that whole area in a circle.
And all the way around as far as you go.
Okay.
Yeah, wherever the water
No, all the way around
Okay.
behind you. And don't use all the film up. I mean all the battery. When I said behind you, I meant back over here in
Okay.
this distant area here. Did you get the path over here too?
Oh, okay.
Aren't they pretty in the sun? Oh, how neat. Can you get close enough with the video cam?
Oh, I should do better.
Very long walk.
Very tippy top, showing where I walk from. I hope it took. That's all I can say.
This is looking from the top of Washburn towards Yellowstone Lake. See Yellowstone Lake out in the distance. And all the way on around towards the west. Coming across Hayden Valley. And around you can see Yellowstone Canyon area. Again, we see the canyon of the Yellowstone River. And back to the Hayden Valley.
You gonna go up there?
Oh, you got the whole frame. Mm-hmm. That's pretty good. What kind of wood did you get? Mm-hmm. That sounds like a good price. With foam. Good, that's excellent. She got a fruit on the frame and fruit on the cover. How much money? Yeah, especially
Now, this picture is taken from,
I'm so glad you got that.
if I'm getting this and it's not, it's looking fuzzy, it may be reflecting off the glass so that it's not focusing. There's Nana rounding the turn up there when she told us she was going to go back. I don't have anything to
Jason? When he's
Yeah. I think so. Look at the top of that.
look at this, Bill.
Filming it?
Yes. Hi there.
I think grandmas should climb passes, should climb mountains.
Yeah.
So that isn't.
Quit laughing. Just walk down the trail like he's not shining on you.
Go ahead. We want you to get there before dark.
Yeah, it's very long.
These people are trying to get around you here.
Already.
Will you quit filming?
Go where Toasty gets in the car. I think she just knows it.
What?
I told him to film you all the time until you get to the car.
What's Mother doing?
I decided to sit down.
Oh.
Is your knee going to come down here? I hope so. You want me to come up there?
No.
If the rest of me gets down there, my knee's coming. Oh, Lord.
We feel it. So did all we.
So
If I hadn't have had this, I'd have never made it over those rough rocks coming down.
Oh.
And I wasn't like Terry. She got a blister on her heel. I began to get a blister on my hand, so I wrapped a scarf around my walking stick.
well, shall we?
They spend their time wandering around looking for food. And so if you want to find a bear these days, you have to learn what kind of foods they eat, and you have to locate where their foods are, and that depends on what season of the year it is. In the spring, bears usually like to eat. And they also like to chase down and kill elk calves, particularly up in the northern part of the park, it seems. Then in the summer, they move on to forbs, ledges, and grasses that you find in the high meadows that are dispersed throughout Yellowstone. In the fall, one of the primary foods when it's available is the whitebark pine nut. And whitebark pine is a tree that grows along timberline throughout Yellowstone. One food that we're seeing bears use more and more is cutthroat trout. In the spring, the cutthroat trout that live in Yellowstone Lake swim up into the tributaries of the lake to spawn. And When I'm talking about spawning, I'm referring to them laying eggs and the young hatching from their eggs. When the fish are spawning in the shallow water of the tributaries, they're vulnerable to quite a few predators, not only bears, but things like coyotes and otters, pelicans, herons, kingfishers, gulls, osprey, and ravens. There's 124 known tributaries to Yellowstone Lake, and they're dispersed throughout the perimeter of the lake. Dan Reinhardt of the Interagency Grizzly Bear Study Team just completed a 3-year study looking at bear use of the spawning streams around the lake. And what he found out was that about half of the streams, 59 of them, have a fish swimming up to the spawn. And of those 59, almost all of them, 93%, have associated bear activity. So chances are that if you're in a creek that has fish spawning in it in the springtime, then there's going to be bears there. Unfortunately, people also like to use the riparian areas that are associated with these creeks. And so about 33% of the tributaries have had developments built on them. The northwest and western shore of Yellowstone Lake has been fairly well developed. Areas like Grant Village, the lake development, and Fishing Bridge, all are adjacent to spawning streams. In developing these areas, we've also blocked off some of the spawning streams so that fish can't spawn. This is 1167 Creek, and that's just right here in the Grant development. That's up by the road. And then Weasel Creek is another one that's been blocked. Fish can only spawn on that in high water years. Grant Village, where we are now, has 5 streams that run through it. Big Thumb Creek, 1167, Sandy Creek, 1165, and Sewer Creek. In fact, if you're and here's Sewer Creek down south of the development. This is the star of our show tonight, Bear 173. Bear 173 learned that fish were a good food source in the springtime. And we don't know who its mother was, but must have taught him that. And he also learned that Grant Village is a pretty good area to eat fish. He showed up in the spring of 1989, probably a 2-year-old at that time. His mother wasn't around, so he'd probably just been kicked off. And began hanging around fishing. Now we have quite a few bears fishing in the Grant area, at least 5 to 6 this year, but most of them we never see. They fish at night or in the early morning hours. We never see them. We just see sign of them. But when you have quite a few bears using the stream, what will happen is that the less dominant bears will have to use the stream in hours other than the nighttime hours. In fact, they'll have to use bears are solitary animals, and when they run into one another, typically the less dominant bears don't fare well. In 1989, Bear 173 was about the least dominant bear around. It had just been kicked off from its mother. And so it began frequenting the Grant area streams in the daytime when its chance of running into other bears was a lot less, and its chance of running into people was high. In the short term, it was probably a lot better for it to run into people than bears. And run into people it did. Often, this isn't obviously from the cards because it's a slide from last year, but often 100 people or more would stop. Nice slide though. Often 100 people or more would stop to watch and photograph the bear. And there was always a crowd around it. Whenever it would show up, there would just be people around. Then it would move between the campground, it moved through the campground while it was going between streams along the beach and that kind of thing. And then it would also graze along the side of the road. As more and more people stopped to watch it, it became less and less wary of those people. In fact, after a while, it was downright unconcerned about people. And bears is a bad situation. Often habituated bears become what we call food conditioned, and that means that they're eating human food. And Stephen Herrero, who wrote the book Bear Attacks, is a bear researcher, compiled the data from Yellowstone and found that of all the injuries inflicted on humans by bears, 2/3 of them were inflicted by habituated food-conditioned bears. But habituation is not only bad for humans, it's also bad for bears. There are some subtle problems with it, like being moved away from the food source, or the stress of being constantly gawked at by hundreds of people. And there's less subtle differences. As bear managers, we don't like to see bears getting habituated. So what we try to do is be proactive in our management. If you're staying at the campground, you're aware of the strict food security we have, and you probably have boxes of bear-proof trash cans trying to get something into them. And our hope is that the bears will have to fight trying to get something out of it. We also have a real extensive public education program, and then we use area closures to try to give the bears some room to breathe and use their natural foods without becoming habituated people. But the spawning streams at both Lake and Grant are a natural attractant to bears in the spring. They also are a natural attractant to people. About the same time that the bears are spawning, the developments begin to open up, and people begin to arrive. And so what we're seeing lately is that bears are becoming habituated. 173 is a good example. Now in bear management, when our first line of defense fails, which is the proactive stuff, the public education and the food security, we don't have a lot to fall back on. We've tried some aversive conditioning. In other words, we tried to get bears to associate a bad feeling with certain behaviors. We typically shoot them in the rump with a rubber bullet or something like that. We've had mixed success with that, and so what we've ended up doing a lot is trapping and moving bears. Before I get into the trapping operation here, I'd like to just say that we don't like to trap bears. Trapping a bear is not a good option. For the first reason it's not a good option is that if we have to trap the bear, something has gone wrong. Our first line of defense has failed. We've had a problem with that bear. The second thing is that trapping a bear is like Murphy's Law intensified. It's like throwing a forward pass in football. 4 things can happen and 3 of them are bad. There's always problems when you're trapping. And finally, the last, and probably maybe the most important problem is that it often doesn't work. Over half, and probably a lot more of that, of the bears that we trap and move return to the area that we moved them from, often within 2 or 3 days. Think about it for a second. If you're lured into a trap like this, somebody tranquilizes you, puts an ear tag in you, puts a collar around your neck, pulls a tooth and tattoos your lip, and then dumps you in hostile territory 100 miles from home, you're going to wake up and want to go home also. There's a lot of reasons why we don't like to trap bears. But having said all that, in 1989 we made the decision to trap bear 173. We felt like it was about the only chance he really had. He was becoming more and more habituated. Eventually we felt like either he would hurt somebody or would get hurt himself. Now when we make the decision to trap a bear, it's not an easy decision to make. A person like me out in the field can't do it. What happens is the rangers in the field will recommend, based on a bear management committee, consists of the chief ranger, the assistant chief ranger, the resource management specialist, the bear management biologist, and then the superintendent is also a consultant. We'll give them our recommendations. They'll take it into consideration, and they might even call Chris Servine, the Fish and Wildlife Grizzly Loop Bear Coordinator, and they will come back with their decision as to whether we can trap that bear or not. Excuse me. Bear 173 in 1989. When we trap a bear, we like to lure him into a culvert trap, such as you see here, or the one that we brought down earlier. We feel like it's safer for the bear to tranquilize while it's in the trap. We do free dart once in a while, but the drug we use takes about 8 minutes to take effect, and by the time it takes effect, the bear could be long gone. We just feel like it's safer for the bear and for the handlers also to have it in a culvert trap when we tranquilize. For bait, we try to use natural foods that the bear might eat. Elk, deer, antelope. This is an antelope we hung in a tree near a trap site trying to get the bear to pick up the scent and lure it in. In 1989, we made the decision to trap bear 173, but nobody told bear 173. And we had two problems that year. The first problem was that the Grant area had already opened when we decided to trap. And the second problem was that the fish had already started to spawn. So because the Grant area was open, we were really constrained as to where we could put our traps. And because the fish were spawning, the bears showed absolutely no interest in anything we could offer it. We started breaking the rules. We started baiting the traps with things like cantaloupe and blueberry pie filling. Not a nibble. We tried free darting. One time we were down in Blister Rust Creek and we almost had a shot when 8 elk came over a ridge and scared the bear. That scared me, and we didn't get the shot off. So we never did trap bear 173 in 1989. The last time I saw it was on July 14th, and it was running down a service road with me chasing behind it in a truck, with a trap behind the truck. I don't think it was thumbing its nose at me, but I can never be sure. We were fairly sure that the bear would come back this spring. We had a meeting last fall, decided if it came back, we thought we should go ahead and try to trap it again. It did come back. In fact, one night, early in May, one of our maintenance employees was walking down the main road. I don't know if Rodney's here tonight or not. He was walking down the main road. The bear popped up on the other side of the road, growled a couple of times. Rodney wisely climbed a tree, and the bear continued down Sandy Creek. So we went ahead and recommended to the Bear Management Committee that we go ahead and trap the bear. And they gave us to go ahead to trap. We set out 3 traps. Set out this aluminum trap, carried into the woods near the intersection at Grant Village. And then we set out 2 more of the old metal-style culvert traps in different locations. We decided to only trap during the daytime because other bears were already working the streams at night, and we didn't want to catch the wrong bear. We decided that if we caught the wrong bear, we would let it go on the spot. Again, we're not trying to catch all the bears in Yellowstone. We just wanted this particular bear to leave the Grant area. We waited for 3 days. We baited the traps at 7 in the morning, opened them up, excuse me, and checked them at noon, 3 o'clock, and 7 o'clock. Finally, on the 4th day, a Saturday morning, the trap at the intersection was closed, and we indeed had caught the right bear. So we got 6 people to carry the trap back to the ranger station at the fire cache. And there we started doing our tranquilizing operation. Kerry Gunther came down. He's handled quite a few bears, came down to help, and he brought a drug kit with him. And there's a lot of prep time that goes into getting ready to tranquilize the bear. Kerry had to first mix up the drug. We used a combination drug called ketoset-rompin. And he first mixed up the drug and then loaded the drug into a dart that we shoot from a capture gun. The dart, let's see if I can focus this. The dart is there's another one, I'll try that. The dart's a metal syringe, it's a metal cylinder with a tail feather on it and a kind of a needle on one end. There you can see a little bit better shot of it. And when we have a bear in a culvert trap, we will use the capture pistol to shoot the dart into him with them. You can see the charge there. We use a light charge. And we shoot through the little trap door here, try to shoot in the hip or the shoulder. In this case, the bear was facing forward, and Kerry got a shot. Didn't know you were going to be on the slides, did you, Kerry? He got a shot into the right hip. Once we got the dart into the bear, we know that it takes about 8 minutes average time for the drug to take effect, so Colette said her stopwatch, and we then started watching for effects of the drug. The first thing that happens is the bear seems to his head seems to get kind of heavy, and this particular bear would lay its head against the side of the trap and also stick its nose up in the air as if it were trying to protect its airway. just as an unconscious person, an unconscious bear can have its airway blocked by its tongue. After we think the bear is under the effect of the drug, we don't necessarily want to just reach in there and grab it. So here's Carrie poking it with a stick to see what it's going to do. And we're all, of course, watching. We don't trap bears very often here, so it's real exciting. Of course, we do. That's not the moon coming up there. That is the back of my head after being Carrie claps his hands above the bear's ears and sees what the reaction is. We continue lifting the door up slowly. Finally, we get the door open and we try a couple different things to see if the bear's really going to wake up on us and begin to pull it out of the trap. We lay it on a tarp when we pull out of the trap. It's a little bit easier to handle it that way, and plus we need to weigh it anyway, so that's a good thing. Now the bear loses its blinking reflexes under the drug, so you want to cover its eyes so they don't get hurt. We use a white rag for that. And we carry it into the fire cache to the waiting tripod there when we weigh it. This bear was a male, 155 pounds. After weighing it, you want to do the most important things first. Carrie puts some ophthalmic solution inside to further protect them. And then we want to go ahead and put the ear tags in. The ear tags are little metal bands that go through the ear much as an earring would go through a human's ear. And they have numbers on them. They're sort of a long-time identification mark. After Carrie put the ear tags in, he left to start working on the collar. And we began taking measurements on the bear. Things like the length of his head and the width of his head. Things like that. After about 20 minutes, we keep it starting up, and it's a good drug for the bear in that it doesn't hurt the bear. It's also hard to overdose it. But it's a little bit dangerous for the handlers because the bear wakes up very suddenly. And, so after about 20 minutes, we gave a supplemental dose of about half the original dose. Interestingly enough, the bear woke up right after this and lifted his head up. And my first reaction was to get away from it, which was exactly the wrong reaction. We needed to grab it and put it in the trap at that time, which we did. Eventually, this dose took effect, and we pulled the bear back out of the trap and began fitting the collar on it. The collar we use for sub-adults is a little bit different than the adult collar. It has an elastic, what would you call, just an elastic band in it, so the collar can expand as the bear grows. Adults will gain and lose weight as the seasons change, but sub-adults grow fairly quickly, and what you don't want to do is get a collar on that's not going to change as the bear changes. You also want to fit the collar around the widest part of the bear's head and then build it off the bear, because you don't want to try to put it around the bear's neck and build the collar, because you could get it on too tight that way. After Carrie fitted it, he wrapped it in electrical tape to kind of protect it, and then began slipping it back over the bear's head. One thing we also do is offset the battery pack so it's not just under the bear's trachea. We had forgotten to see what sex the bear was, so we did that. It's fairly important. It was a male. And then often what people will do is pull a tooth and tattoo the lip. Pulling a tooth helps you age the bear, and tattooing the lip is just a more permanent mark. We decided not to do either one in this case. We had the bear down, we knew it was 2 or 3 years old, and tattooing the lip had already woken up once. We didn't want it to wake up with our hands in his mouth. We decided not to tattoo the lip. We went ahead and put the bear back in the culvert trap we were going to transport it in. Before we transported it, we waited for the bear to wake up so that it could protect its own airway. We wanted it to be able to take care of itself as we drove it. We had to drive it a couple 100 miles or 100 miles or so. And we didn't want it to be under the influence of the drug as we were driving. We drove it up to the north end of the park and attached a rope to the trap doors. You can see it into a pulley and into a waiting car over there. Sat inside and opened the door. After about a minute, we saw a nose sticking out of the trap. And then right after that, the bear bolted and ran up this ridge. And that's the last we saw of it that day. So, find my notes here. Bear 173 was sort of a success story as far as translocations go. It has since that time been in Cook Peak and Prospect Peak area, which is in the Washburn Bear Management area. And last I heard it was north of the Mammoth Norris Road, or Mammoth Tower Road heading north. But it's sort of a bittersweet success. Anytime you have to trap and move bears, there's problems, and the problem with this is that we've moved it away from its preferred food source, which is fish. And the other problem is that there's no guarantee that it won't come back to Grant next year. At that time, we'll have to, again, decide whether we're going to trap and move it or not. And the root problem is that, still is here, and that's that the developments are still here adjacent to the spawning streams that are attracting bears. And I just wanted to talk a minute about what we're trying to do to manage these areas for both humans and bears. Back in 1986, we started monitoring these spawning streams, and the idea was that we need to reduce the temporal overlap, the time when bears are using the streams and when people are using the streams. We need to try to separate those two. And so we started this monitoring program for the spawning streams. And what we do is, beginning May 1st, we go down to Sewer Creek, 1167 Creek, and Sandy Creek, and just watch to see if the fish are spawning yet. And once the fish start spawning, we go down there every week and check for bear activity and count the number of fish. Counting fish is just that. I mean, you just stand there and walk along the creek, and you count as many fish as you see. And the idea behind counting fish is to try to decide when they begin spawning, when they peak, and when they end spawning. And that gives you a rough idea of when the bears are going to be using the area. Monitoring bear activity, we usually look for sign. We don't often see bears down there, which is by design. Sign would include tracks, bear scat, fish parts, fish that would be eaten by bears, and bear trailing. And using these signs, we can get some ideas as to how many bears are using the streams and the timing of it. Occasionally we even see a bear. In fact, 3 times this year down on Sewer Creek, we had to stop doing the monitoring because we ran into a bear down there. By measuring tracks and documenting the sign, we feel like we have a fairly good handle, or at least a minimum number of bears using the creek. And this year we had 5 to 6 different bears using the creek. In 1990, the spawn began in the second week of May, peaked on the 31st of May, and then ended in mid-June. The peak number of fish was about 900 in Sandy Creek and about 1,000 in Sewer Creek and about 400 in 1167 Creek. As I said, 5 to 6 bears using the area. Based on some of the work Dan Reinhardt has done and what we've learned from our spawning streams, we have come up with some ideas of what's going on. One thing that we know is that bears are increasing their use of spawning streams. In 1975, Bill Hoskins from the study team did a study, and of the 59 streams he found fish spawning in, only 29% had bear activity. Dan's study, of the 59 streams that he found fish in, 93% had bear activity. So it seems like bears are increasingly learning to use the fish. The other thing that's interesting is that, here's a graph that I'm sure nobody really wants to look at, but the thing that's interesting here is that if you look at this solid line, now the dotted line is the peak bear use, and what you'll notice is that the peak bear use is after the peak of the fish count. And originally we based the Grand Campground opening date on the peak of the fish, and what we're learning is that we need to look at bear use more, because the bears are using those streams after the fish use it. The other thing that we're learning is that in Grant, these streams tend to dry up. They become intermittent and have pools, and the pools will trap the fish. And the bears will hang around even longer because of trapped fish. So, and what we do with all this information is we base the Grant Campground opening date on when the bears are using the area. Currently it opens May 20th or sooner if the bears, if the spawning run is over sooner and the bears are out of the area. This year it opened on May 20th. We also have granted the bear management area where the streams are closed until the bears leave the area, and we still have the streams closed. We still have a little bit of bear use in Silver Creek. I guess the conclusion, I'd like to say that by counting fish and counting bears and managing, we're doing a good job of managing for both people and bears, but this year has been a real bad year for bears. On the spawning streams, we've lost 2 bears just from spawning streams. 134 from Lake was removed from the park, and then we had the bear that was killed here by a car. And we, 173 had to be moved. So it's been a pretty tough year on bears so far. And I'm hoping that in the future we can fine-tune this a little bit so that we can continue to have bears using their natural food source and still allow people in the area too. I guess that's pretty much it. What I'd like to do is ask, I'm sure everybody has opinions and questions and things they want to talk about, so, and I'm sure some people are pretty tired already too, so whoever wants to leave, please feel free. If anybody wants to stay and ask questions and look at things like the bear trap and all that, then please come down. I would like to thank a few people before I go. You might think that I took all these slides myself, but you'd be wrong. I took most of the bad ones. The good ones were taken by a lot of different people. Alan Bush, Gary Nelson, Woody Wimberly, Colette Dagelberg, all, and Gus and Corey, Terry Grant, Lynn Bolt, Dan Cardy, and Dan Reinhardt also took quite a few of them. So I want to thank those people for lending me their slides. And that's about it. Thanks for coming.
Trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah, cool.
I look at these trunks. I got trunks up in the attic, 3 of them.
Blacksmith shop.
Yeah, look at all the saddles. That's still a blacksmith shop.
Watch out, don't
Maybe. Grinding wheel to sharpen the knives. Sewing machine, an old one.
The one that they made the movie
Uh-huh.
with Robert Redford. See, there's Robert Redford. Isn't that him?
Yes.
On the right.
Yeah, but I have to go here and then come back.
Oh,
No,
that's
it's 10
where
to 8.
I thought it was 12.
But her oldest.
This is Old Trail Town in Custer, Wyoming. I mean, Cody, Wyoming.
From the Oregon Trail to Yellowstone National Park, she is truly a bloom. Her people have shaped her into what she is today and will shape her destiny in the future. From Wyoming territory, modern Wyoming, she exemplifies truly how the West was won. On July the 10th, 1890, by an act of Congress, Wyoming became the 44th state in the Union of the United States of America. Please join me as we show our respect to the greatest nation on earth. Lone Star Cowboy doing it to it. You see the way he's using the horse? That's the way to ride a bareback horse, folks. Come on, folks, let him hear about it. I know you appreciate the way he knows that horse.
Think they have any television stations here? Oh great, we're getting filmed.
No, I'm filming the motor.
Oh good.
This is gonna be so fun not to get home and see Squeaky.
We are gonna get home and see Squeaky here.
No, there is no chance. We could probably.
No. Stinker.
And now I'm getting Kristen with her thumb in her mouth. And I'm getting Erin playing like she's shy.